The first wall came down while I was still alive. My daughter-in-law called it progress. I called it my dining room. I had spent 2 weeks recovering at my sister's house after a minor stroke. My doctor had already confirmed that I could return home with a few temporary adjustments. But when I arrived, a contractor's van was blocking my driveway. The front door stood open. Plastic sheets covered the hallway, and the wall between my kitchen and dining room had been reduced to broken plaster and exposed wooden beams. My daughter-in-law, Vanessa, stood in the middle of the dust wearing a white construction mask. She looked at me as though I had interrupted her project. "You weren't supposed to be back until Friday," she said. It was Tuesday. I looked past her at the room where my husband and I had celebrated 38 Christmas dinners. "What have you done to my house?" Vanessa removed the mask and smiled carefully. "We started the renovations." I asked who had given permission. She looked toward my son, who was standing near the kitchen with his hands inside his pockets. Then she said the sentence that told me everything. "We're only doing now what would have to be done after you were gone." I did not scream. I did not argue with the workers. I stepped back onto the porch, called my attorney, and told him exactly what I was seeing. Vanessa believed my house had already become part of her future. She had forgotten that I still owned the present. My name is Martha Lawson. I was 72 years old when my daughter-in-law began renovating my house as though I had already died. I lived in a quiet neighborhood outside Cincinnati, Ohio. The house was a 4-bedroom colonial with pale brick, dark green shutters, and a maple tree that dropped thousands of leaves across the front lawn every fall. My husband, Henry, and I bought it in 1987. Our son, Andrew, was 4 years old. Our daughter, Rebecca, had not yet been born. The house changed with our family. The basement became a playroom. The playroom became a music room when Rebecca learned piano. Andrew's bedroom became a guest room after he moved out. The back porch became a screened sitting area after Henry retired. Every renovation had a reason. Every change had been discussed. And every change had been paid for by the people who owned the house. Henry died 5 years before Vanessa removed my dining room wall. He had been ill for almost a year. During that time, we reviewed our accounts, updated our wills, and transferred the house into a revocable living trust. The trust was not complicated. Henry and I were the original trustees. After his death, I became the sole trustee. As long as I was alive and capable, I controlled the house. If I became unable to manage my affairs, my daughter, Rebecca, would serve with our attorney, Charles Bell. After my death, the house could be sold and the proceeds divided between Andrew and Rebecca. Andrew knew he was a beneficiary. What he either forgot or chose not to understand was that being a future beneficiary did not make him a present owner. Vanessa understood even less. She entered our family when Andrew was 36. She was energetic, polished, and always planning something. She worked as an interior design consultant for a home furnishing company. She could walk into a room and immediately tell you which walls should be removed, which colors were wrong, and which furniture made the space look dated. At first, I enjoyed her confidence. She helped me choose new curtains after Henry died. She found a safer rug for the front hallway. She arranged family photographs along the staircase. Then her suggestions became judgments. The kitchen is trapped in the 90s. The dining room is too formal. Nobody wants separate rooms anymore. This house could be stunning with the right investment. I usually smiled and changed the subject. The kitchen was old. The dining room was formal. But I liked them. I did not need my home to impress buyers. I needed it to feel like mine. Andrew and Vanessa lived 20 minutes away in a newer subdivision. Their home was beautiful. It was also heavily mortgaged. Andrew worked in sales for an industrial supply company. Vanessa's income changed from month to month. They appeared comfortable, but there were signs of strain. Andrew stopped contributing to his retirement account. Vanessa began selling furniture online. They canceled a family vacation. One evening, Andrew asked whether I had considered selling my house while the market was strong. "I'm not moving," I said. "You don't need all this space. I enjoy it." The stairs will become a problem. They aren't a problem now. You should plan before they are. I have a plan. He leaned forward. What plan? If I need help, I'll hire it. If I can no longer manage here, I'll decide what comes next. Vanessa joined the conversation. The house would sell much better if it were updated first. I'm not selling it. Not immediately, she said, but eventually. Eventually was one of the most dangerous words in our family. It allowed people to discuss my property while pretending they were not rushing me. Vanessa began bringing design samples during visits. Cabinet colors, flooring, photographs of open kitchens. She once held a paint sample against my dining room wall without asking. This shade would make the whole house feel younger. I am not trying to make the house younger, she laughed. You know what I mean. I know what I like. Her smile faded slightly. You're emotionally attached to things that reduce the value. I live here. Emotional attachment is allowed. Andrew told me I was taking her comments personally. They were about my home. I was supposed to take them personally. Rebecca saw the pattern before I did. She lived in Louisville with her husband and worked as a pharmacist. During one visit, Vanessa showed her a digital rendering of my kitchen. The wall between the dining room and kitchen had been removed. A large island stood where Henry's dining table belonged. The cabinets were white. The floor was pale wood. The room looked expensive. It did not look like my house. Rebecca asked, "Did Mom request this?" Vanessa said, "Not yet." Rebecca looked at me. I shook my head. Later, she pulled me aside. Why is she designing renovations? She enjoys design. She's calculating resale value. You don't know that. She told Andrew opening the kitchen could add $80,000. I felt a small chill. Maybe she was speaking generally. Mom, she has measured the rooms. I had seen her holding a tape measure once. She said she was checking whether a cabinet would fit. Rebecca told me to keep my trust documents secure. I assured her they were in a locked cabinet and that Charles had the originals. I believed that was enough. The health scare happened 6 months later. I woke one morning with numbness in my left hand and difficulty forming words. I knew the signs of a stroke because Henry had suffered 1 year earlier. I called emergency services immediately. By the time I reached the hospital, my speech had improved. Doctors determined that I had experienced a minor ischemic stroke. I remained in the hospital for 3 nights. There was no major permanent damage. My left hand was weak, and I became tired more easily, but I could walk, speak, understand, and make decisions. The doctors expected a good recovery. Andrew and Vanessa visited every day. Rebecca arrived on the second evening. For a while, the family worked together. They spoke to the doctors. They arranged medication. They called my sister Elaine. Then Andrew and Vanessa began pushing for permanent changes. You can't go back to that house alone, Andrew said. I can with temporary help. The stairs are dangerous. My bedroom is downstairs. The bathroom isn't accessible. It needs one grab bar. Vanessa opened a folder. She had already collected brochures from retirement communities. One offered independent apartments. Another offered assisted living. A third had memory care. I stared at the final brochure. Why did you bring me information about memory care? It's all part of the same campus, she said. I had a minor stroke. I do not have dementia. Nobody said you did. Then remove that brochure. Vanessa looked offended. Andrew told me not to become emotional. I asked them to leave for the evening. Rebecca stayed. She apologized for their behavior, even though it was not her fault. Come stay with us, she said. I want to go home. Then let Elaine stay for a while. My sister Elaine lived 10 minutes from me. Her house was 1 level. She offered to let me recover there for 2 weeks, while a handrail and grab bar were installed at my house. That sounded reasonable. I agreed. Before leaving the hospital, a social worker evaluated my needs. She recommended temporary physical therapy and help with heavier tasks. Nothing in the report stated that I was incapable of living independently. Nothing stated that Andrew or Vanessa could make decisions for me. I repeated that to them. Andrew nodded. Vanessa said nothing. The day after I was discharged, I went to Elaine's house. Andrew offered to collect clothes and medication from my home. I gave him a key. That decision troubled me later, but at the time it seemed ordinary. He was my son. For the first week, recovery went well. A therapist visited. My strength improved. I practiced buttoning shirts and gripping small objects. I walked every morning with Elaine. Andrew called daily. He said the house was fine. He said the grab bar had been installed. He said a contractor had inspected the downstairs bathroom. I reminded him that I had approved only the grab bar. I know, he said. On the 8th day, my neighbor, Susan, called. She sounded confused. Are you remodeling? No. There's a dumpster in your driveway. I sat down. What kind of dumpster? A construction dumpster, and there are men carrying cabinets out of the house. I called Andrew immediately. He did not answer. I called Vanessa. She answered on the 3rd ring. What is happening at my house? There was a pause. We started some necessary work. What necessary work? The kitchen and downstairs layout. I did not approve that. It had to happen eventually. Stop the workers. Martha, please listen before reacting. I am listening. Stop the work, she sighed. The house needs to be functional for the next stage. What next stage? You moving somewhere appropriate. I felt my left hand begin to shake. Not from the stroke. From anger. I am returning home next week. That's not realistic. My doctor says it is. Doctors don't see the house. I live in the house. You almost had a major stroke there. I called for help. And what if the next one is worse? What does removing my kitchen wall have to do with that? Vanessa became quiet. Then she said the renovation would increase the sale price. There it was. Sale price. Not safety. Not accessibility. Resale. You listed my house, not yet. Then why are you renovating it? Because timing matters. If we wait until after everything is decided, we could lose the construction window. Who is we? You, Andrew, Rebecca, all of us. There is no all of us, it is my house. She lowered her voice. The trust says the house goes to Andrew and Rebecca after my death. Or if you move permanently. That is not what it says. You should talk to Andrew. I am talking to you because you hired workers. She said Andrew had approved everything. I told her Andrew had no authority. She replied, he's a trustee. That was when I understood the source of their confidence. Andrew had found an old copy of the trust. In the original version, created before Henry's illness, Andrew and Rebecca had been named as successor co-trustees. But Henry and I had amended the trust years later. After Andrew's first business failure and a serious disagreement over money, we replaced him with Rebecca and Charles. Andrew remained a beneficiary. He was no longer a successor trustee. Vanessa did not know that. Apparently, Andrew either did not know or believed the older copy would be enough. I ended the call. Then I called Charles. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he asked one question. Did you authorize any work in writing? No. Did you sign a contract? No. Did you tell Andrew he could act as trustee? No. Then do not argue further. I'm going to the property. Elaine drove me there. Charles told me to remain outside until he arrived. When we turned onto my street, I saw the dumpster. My dining room curtains had been removed. A contractor's sign stood near the garage. The front door was open. A section of drywall lay broken on the front lawn. I felt as though someone had opened my body while I was still awake. Andrew's car was in the driveway. Vanessa stood inside wearing a construction mask. She looked shocked to see me. You weren't supposed to be back until Friday. I stepped through the doorway. Dust covered the floor. My dining table had been moved into the garage. The wall between the kitchen and dining room was partially removed. Cabinet doors had been taken down. My dishes were packed in unlabeled boxes. Henry's framed photograph was leaning against the fireplace. I looked at Andrew. What have you done? He raised both hands. Mom, let us explain. You removed a wall. It's not load-bearing. That is not the question. The contractor checked everything. Who hired him? Vanessa answered. I did. Who signed the contract? Andrew. I looked at my son. Under what authority? He swallowed. As successor trustee. You are not my successor trustee. His face changed. Yes, I am. No. Dad told me. Your father and I amended the trust. He stared at me. When? 7 years ago. That's impossible. Why? You would have told me. I was not required to. Vanessa removed her mask. The copy we found names him. The copy you found is outdated. She looked toward Andrew. He said nothing. Vanessa's confidence shifted. Not gone, but damaged. She said the contractor had already purchased materials. She said deposits were non-refundable. She said the project would add value. I told her value was irrelevant because I had not agreed. Then she made the mistake she would later deny. You won't be living here much longer anyway. The room became silent. Even the workers stopped moving. I looked at her. Why not? She began speaking quickly. The stroke changed things. The house was too large. The market was strong. A renovated property could sell for nearly $700,000. An independent living apartment near them would cost much less. The remaining money could be invested. Andrew interrupted. Vanessa. But she continued. They had done calculations. After renovation costs, closing expenses, and my new apartment, there would still be a significant amount left. I asked what happened to that amount. Vanessa said it would remain in the trust. That sounded responsible. Then I asked why Andrew had recently discussed opening a second location for his business. He stared at me. I had heard about the plan from Rebecca. Andrew wanted to purchase a small commercial property. His bank would not approve enough financing. The money from my house would improve his position. They had convinced themselves that investing part of the trust funds in his business would benefit everyone. You plan to sell my home and invest the money in Andrew's business, Vanessa said, not all of it. I almost laughed. The distinction did not help. Charles arrived before Andrew could answer. He entered carrying a leather briefcase. He greeted me first. Then he looked at the exposed wall, the boxes, and the contractors. Who is responsible for this project? Vanessa said. We are. Charles asked to see the contract. Andrew hesitated. Charles repeated the request. Vanessa retrieved a folder from the counter. The contract listed Andrew Lawson, successor trustee of the Lawson Family Trust, as the client. Charles read the first page. Then he looked at Andrew. You are not the successor trustee. Andrew said he had a signed trust document proving otherwise. Charles opened his briefcase. So do I. He removed the current certificate of trust and the amendment. The amendment named Rebecca Lawson and Charles Bell as successor co-trustees if I became unable to serve. But I had not become unable. I was alive. I was mentally capable. I remained the sole acting trustee. Even Rebecca and Charles had no present authority to renovate or sell without the conditions stated in the trust. Andrew had none. The contractor stepped closer. No one told me there was a dispute. Charles handed him a copy of the certification page. The person who signed your contract did not have authority to bind the trust or the property owner. The contractor looked at Andrew. You told us you controlled the house. Andrew's face reddened. I believed I did. I answered before anyone else could. You believed you would eventually. The contractor ordered his workers to stop. Tools were shut down. A saw fell silent. The sudden quiet was almost painful. Vanessa said stopping would make the house unsafe. Charles told the contractor to secure any exposed areas, but perform no additional work without my written authorization. Then he instructed Andrew and Vanessa not to remove documents, furniture, or personal belongings. Vanessa protested. She said she had spent days packing. I looked at her. You packed my home without permission. I was organizing. You removed my husband's things. They were in the way. That sentence ended any remaining patience I had. I told them both to leave. Andrew refused. He said the situation needed to be resolved as a family. Charles informed him that the property owner had directed him to leave. Andrew looked at me as though I had betrayed him. "You're throwing your son out? You do not live here. I've been managing the property for 2 weeks. You have been damaging it." Vanessa said I was speaking emotionally because of my health. Charles turned toward her. "Mrs. Lawson has demonstrated clear understanding of the property, trust, work being performed, and decisions before her." Vanessa accused him of influencing me. He did not respond. He did not need to. The workers packed their equipment. Andrew and Vanessa left after Charles told them any further entry required my permission. Before leaving, Vanessa pointed toward the unfinished wall. "You'll have to complete this now," I answered calmly. "You will have to explain why it started." For the next several days, my home remained partly dismantled. I stayed with Elaine while an independent structural engineer inspected the work. The contractor had confirmed the wall was not fully load-bearing, but electrical wiring had been exposed. Cabinets had been damaged during removal. The floor had been cut. The dining room molding had been broken. The project could not simply be reversed in one afternoon. Charles gathered records. The construction contract, invoices, emails, text messages, design plans, a preliminary valuation of the renovated house, a draft listing presentation, and a spreadsheet Vanessa had created. The spreadsheet showed expected sale proceeds, cost of my senior apartment, renovation costs, Andrew's proposed business investment, legal reserves, distributions after my death. They had not only redesigned the house, they had redesigned my remaining life. My apartment was represented by one line. Andrew's business received 3 pages of projections. That told me where the concern truly was. Rebecca arrived 2 days later. She was furious, not because she had been excluded from the inheritance plan, because she had been excluded from decisions about me. She confronted Andrew by phone. He said he thought acting quickly would prevent family conflict. Rebecca asked, "How does secretly tearing out Mom's kitchen prevent conflict?" He accused her of caring more about control than safety. She replied, "You're describing yourself." Charles advised us not to turn the situation into a family shouting match. The records mattered more than arguments. The old trust document explained how Andrew had attempted to present authority. The current amendment disproved it. My medical records confirmed I remained capable. My messages proved I had authorized only a grab bar and minor safety work. The contractor confirmed Vanessa had described the house as an estate property being prepared for sale. The estate did not exist.